Raimondo was slapped in the face by Huawei, but he still smiled at each other. There are other difficulties behind his good temper. The United States is left with nothing but empty air, relying on the production of data to hold its breath. Keep your eyes and ears open, victory is at hand. Huawei Mate 60 spokesperson. Raimondo's 4-day visit to China is over. Before leaving, Huawei prepared a souvenir for her. On the eve of his visit to China, Raimondo specifically accepted an interview with reporters and said, if Huawei continues to develop 5G and chips, the United States will take more severe restrictive measures to protect national security. However, as soon as Raimondo's words fell, Huawei Mate 60 Pro went on sale without a notice. Kirin chips and 5G are back, and they will be in stock immediately. Raimondo used sanctions as a bargaining chip 1 second, and Huawei started selling self-developed 5G mobile phones the next second, and he didn't bring such a face-to-face. There is no press conference, no PPT, but the digital evaluation papers are endless, and the whole people are excited about swiping their phones, and they also get a free spokesperson by the way. Huawei confirms, strength is the overriding marketing. It's just that I don't know how the US Secretary of Commerce, who likes to mention her new identity, feels in her heart at this moment. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Huawei Mate 60 Pro is far more advanced than expected. The CPU is not 14 nanometers, not even 7 nanometers as reported on the internet, but 5 nanometers. Communication technology is not 5G, but 5.5G, or even quasi 6G. You know, satellite communication is 6G technology, which can save lives at critical moments. If Huawei does not make a move, it will be fine, and if it makes a move, it will be Wangjia. At the same time, Huawei announced its results for the first half of 2023, revenue of 301.9 billion yuan and net profit of 46.5 billion, a threefold increase over the same period last year. Huawei, which has made a lot of money, invested even more in research and development. In the first half of the year, the research and development expenses were 82.6 billion yuan, which was 3.5 billion more than the same period last year. In the past 10 years, Huawei has invested a total of 977.3 billion yuan in research and development, ranking first in the world. In the past few years, relying on the United States to gather a group of allies to work together to strangle Huawei, Apple has really enjoyed a while. Now that Huawei is reborn from Nirvana and the king is back, how many rounds can Apple survive? Raimondo said that he left China with optimism. Unexpectedly, before leaving, he brought a wave of advertisements for Huawei, which really moved China. This photo was taken by Huawei Mate 60 Pro satellite mobile terminal. Void card making doesn't work. China is a country of etiquette and knows how to treat guests. As early as 2011, the then US Secretary of Defense Gates visited China, which coincided with the test flight of the J-20. When he visited the Great Wall, he was interviewed by various media, and his expression was quite intriguing. Gates wrote in his memoirs after retirement, "This is the biggest insult to me." After all, before that, it was he who personally signed the shutdown of the F-22 production line. 12 years have passed, and this time it is the turn of Secretary of Commerce Raimondo. History is a reincarnation. From the Hongmeng system, to the power management chip, processor, GPU, flash memory, and storage chip, all are self-developed in China. Huawei Mate 60 Pro is China's first full-length, nationally produced advanced process 5G mobile phone. Kirin 9000 is the world's first 5G. The SoC 5 nanometers chip is no less significant than the first flight of the J-20. Before Raimondo came to China, he made a gift list. 1. The semiconductor exemption in South Korea and Taiwan is extended for 1 year. 2. The Sinoa Science and Technology Cooperation Agreement was extended for half a year. 3.27 Chinese entities removed from the unverified list. 4. Increase the number of flights between China and the United States. On the surface, it seems that there is a lot of goodwill, but these sanctions are unreasonable and should not be unreasonable, and unconditional cancellation is a matter of course. Making cards in the void and repaying money on the ground is still a familiar rogue operation, but China no longer accepts this. The gift list has just been presented, and visa restrictions have been introduced. Lau Mei is so awkward. Clearly wanting something from others, but he can't hold back his face. Behind the left and right struggles, there is something wrong with his thinking. Of course, from Blinken, Yellen to Raimondo, Americans have heard a lot of speaking recently. It's not that her temper suddenly became better and she learned etiquette, but that the situation is stronger than others, and Lau Mei doesn't have the confidence to speak loudly. No one would believe that Raimondo came here with much sincerity. Suppression is the norm until the winner is determined. Unless China's strength is far superior to that of the United States, the opponent is really unable to beat it and can only choose to join, and cooperation will naturally follow. Go your own way and let the sanctioners have nowhere to go. This is China's mission. What is data hype? Before Raimondo's visit to China, Western media repeatedly hyped a set of data. In July this year, China's exports to the EU fell by 20.6% year-on-year, and exports to the United States fell by 23.1%. The United States concluded from this, China's economic growth rate is weak, its status as the world's largest producer is declining, and there is even the possibility of falling into recession. Raimondo felt like a treasure, as if this was the only confidence in his trip to China. However, the United States deliberately ignores the real Chinese economic data. In the first half of 2023, China's total foreign trade import and export value will increase by 2.1% year-on-year, and the growth rate is still higher than that of most countries. At the same time, there is another set of data. In the first 7 months of this year, China's imports and exports to BRICS countries increased by 19.1% year-on-year, far exceeding the overall growth rate during the same period. Comparing the two, the answer is ready to emerge. It is not China that is weak economically, but the US and Europe. According to IMF statistics, the GDP of the 5 BRICS countries will far exceed that of the G7 in 2022. Outside of BRICS, ASEAN replaced the United States as China's #1 trading partner. The trade volume between China and developing countries has surpassed that of developed countries. The West does not represent the whole world and is becoming less and less important. The United States is overgeneralizing and trying to confuse the public with false data, which further shows its inherent weakness and that there are indeed no licenses available. There is no card in hand, and the making of cards is ineffective. Facing China, the United States has obviously lost its position, and only resorted to the ridiculous trick of numbers game that can be seen at a glance. Of course, statistics is the White House's specialty, and it's easy to play with it, and it's easy to fool the silly and sweet American voters. It's just an insult to IQ if you want to show your ugliness in front of the Chinese. The data for July is terrible. The statistics of various departments in the United States are freshly released. What is more brighter than the ugly data in July is the correction regression of the data in June. 1. Real estate transactions hit rock bottom. U.S. existing home sales fell again in July by 2.2%, down 16.6% from a year earlier, already at the lowest level since 2010. We are about to witness again, the price of new homes is lower than that of existing homes. The last time this happened in the United States was in 2005. Data show that the confidence of American home buyers is far lower than in 2008, even worse than the historical low in 1990, and has reached a new bottom. The median new home loan payment is nearly $3,000/month and rent is $2,000/month. Existing home sales in the U.S. have plummeted as mortgage rates have risen to their highest level in 23 years. According to the Affordability Index, the U.S. housing market is at its toughest ever, and people are overwhelmed. Real estate is highly linked to finance, and countries with more developed finances have larger real estate. Inflation can also be relieved by pressing the gourd to float the ladle. If there is a problem with real estate, it will shake the foundation of the U.S. economy. According to the current interest rates in the United States, commercial real estate is already on the verge of a thunderstorm. 2. Employment data can't blow. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported in July that job vacancies fell sharply to 8.82 million from 9.5 million previously. The most ironic is the correction regression of the June data, with job vacancies revised down sharply to 9.16 million from the previously released 9.58 million. The number of new U.S. job vacancies unexpectedly fell to the lowest level since March 2021 in July. The June data is an old rule, and it has been revised downward substantially. I have been tired of reading it over the years. The June data can be boasted by falsification, but the falsification of July is useless. If you can't even blow the employment data, what else can the U.S. economy blow? Power generation? The U.S. Census Bureau is powerless, but fortunately there are always people from Run to help with the debate. There were many job vacancies before, and it was said that it was the new crown. Now that there are few job vacancies, it must be that the new crown has been cured? A large number of companies have closed down, and there are not so many people, which is the most heart-wrenching fact. The overall decline in the US economic data means that the situation is very good. What's so good about it? Have no idea. Correction regression trick debunked. As the general election approaches, the statistics of the United States have gradually begun to correct and return. The audience suddenly realized that the US data had to be read in the revised version. In late August, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics revised the previously released data for the fourth quarter of 2022 and the first quarter of 2023. Contrary to the great employment situation that was touted when it was first released, the revised data shows that the real compensation of American workers has fallen astronomically. It was 0.7 when it was released, and it was quietly revised to -4.7 a few months later. Is this a statistic? It's a scam. Make beautiful data and publicize desperately to build a first impression. The actual bad data will be changed in the future, and no one pays attention to it anyway. Just like media hype, rumors spread thousands of miles, and no one knows to refute them. It has to be said that Lau Mei knows how to advertise. When the popularity is high, false and beautiful data are released to maintain political performance and votes. Wait for the heat to pass before releasing real data to effectively reduce the impact on votes. In the next statistics, a higher growth curve can be created on the real data, which is how people have been playing. This is considered a traditional American art, and the current data is to guide expectations, not reflect reality. Friends who are familiar with old American urine will say again, in order to raise interest rates, fabricate data, why bother to expose others? It's really not that we want to expose it, it's just that there are too many data falsifications, and various bugs are inevitable. For example, the employment data that was blown up some time ago shows that hundreds of thousands of new jobs are added every month, while the unemployment rate has been rising. Just as the beautiful data is an excuse to raise interest rates, the current statistics of the United States have nothing to do with economic performance, but only with the policies to be promoted. Dragging China into the water during the epidemic is just playing with data falsification, but China has so many believers of American data, who really believe that the new crown virus is not terrible. Now that the game between China and the United States is at a critical juncture, the White House can only rely on falsified data to whitewash the crumbling American economy. How much water did this world number one inject? Behind the bright glass curtain wall, there are still a few steel bars that are not rusted. Raimondo knows best. It's not good to be number one in the world. According to IMF statistics, based on purchasing power parity, China's GDP in 2023 is equal to the sum of the United States and Japan. In other words, China's economy has already thrown off the United States, and is ahead of Japan. But neither China nor the US recognize this data, and the reason is simple: China doesn't want to be the number one yet, and the US is most afraid of not being no. For a long time, the military, finance and technology have been the three trump cards to support US hegemony, and the White House has also confidently launched a technological war and a financial war against China. Now that the technological war has come to an end, the United States has no cards to play. The financial war does not require China to come forward at all, and the whole world is working together to send the dollar one last leg. Judging from the performance in the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea, the US military probably only has paper strength left. As for the real military power behind the numbers, I'm afraid I have to ask US Secretary of Defense Austin. By the way, Austin has been a resentful wife for half a year, and he begs to see Chief Defense Chiefly every 3 days but fails. The White House shouts war, the Pentagon makes peace. This world is too magical, do you understand? Raimondo's good attitude during his visit to China is just a superficial appearance. Calm down and look at the propaganda caliber of the Western media. Swearing at crossroads in commercial streets, apologizing in corners and alleys, let the United States understand. The United States is already hungry and has entered the final madness. The dawn of national rejuvenation is emerging, but the darkness before dawn is the most dangerous. We must hold on, and we must not fall short. What makes America strong? Cheating, stealing, robbing. Now we just need to keep our eyes wide open, our ears pricked up, and our purses covered, to prevent cheating, stealing, and US imperialism. As for Ming Qiang, the opponent has neither fists nor courage, but we have already practiced our internal skills and set up our formation. The rest, just leave it to time.